If it seems like a lot of people have appropriate faces for their names, people who just look like a Danny or a Fred, there may be a reason for this. Recent studies have shown that your name might somehow actually influence the shape of your face. Researchers ran more than a dozen studies in which participants were asked to guess a stranger's name given 5 choices. They picked correctly 35% of the time, 15% better than random chance. There could be many reasons for this. It's speculated that people might use their facial muscles differently depending on their name, changing the face's shape over time. Or that some might choose a different name, such as their middle name, if their given name doesn't suit them visually. There is a fruit that is so foul in appearance, taste, and smell, you have to wonder what was going through the head of the first person to ever try one. It's called the Durian, and it's volleyball-sized, melon-like in appearance, and is covered with spikes. Not exactly inviting to look at, but by the time you're close enough to get a look, you will have already gotten a whiff of its incredibly strong odor, which is said to resemble that of hot garbage crossed with a dirty diaper. The taste has been most kindly described as a combination of garlic and cream cheese. Not exactly what your average fruit lover has in mind, but some foodies swear that the stinkiest fruit can be addictive and can even give you a hallucinogen-like high. London, England is one of the world's great cities, but the bustling metropolis hides a strange secret in plain sight. London is actually a forest. You heard right. With over 8 million trees, nearly one for every person, it is technically considered a forest by the United Nations definition of the term. There are many reasons for this aside from sheer aesthetics, which in itself is significant, as tree-lined streets boost property value. But almost 40% of London's surfaces are concrete, and all the trees play a critical role in slowing rainfall. They also remove over 2,000 tons of pollution from the air annually, and cool the city's buildings, reducing their energy usage in summer months. South Korea has the fastest internet on the planet, and you may think that this would make them a leader in cutting-edge web technologies. But due to an old and outdated security law, citizens of South Korea are severely limited as to how they accomplish their ultra-fast shopping and banking. For any financial transactions conducted on the web, South Koreans are forced to use Microsoft Internet Explorer. The 1999 law established digital certificates to establish citizens' identities based on ActiveX, a Microsoft plugin that won't work properly with any other browser. It's a huge pain for everyone, but most specifically for Apple users, who simply can't conduct any business on their devices. Government and financial institutions have dragged their feet for nearly 2 decades in response to demands to change the law, and it doesn't look like it'll happen anytime soon. If you've ever wondered just how much airline baggage goes unclaimed every year, the answer is probably more than you'd think. If you've ever wondered what happens to it, the answer is definitely not what you'd expect. If an extensive 90-day trace process to find an unclaimed bag's owner fails, it is sold to the Unclaimed Baggage Center, a private for-profit enterprise in Scottsboro, Alabama. The items are meticulously cleaned and sorted, then put up for sale in a 40,000 square foot space with all the departments you'd expect to find in your local Target. While damaged and non-family-friendly items are donated, the center moves tons of clothing and household items, along with the occasional strange or dramatic find. Employees have seen car engines, antlers, and even full suits of armor, along with the occasional piece of expensive jewelry. The center employs about 140 people and sees over 1 million visitors per year. Alan Turing is known as the father of computer science and is one of the greatest minds of our time. Like most incredibly smart people, he was a little bit eccentric. In 1940, for reasons that aren't quite clear, he converted his entire life savings into silver ingots and buried the loot in Bletchley Park. Unfortunately, when he went to retrieve the stash, he had forgotten where it was buried, and he spent the rest of his life looking for it to no avail. The silver stash is still there somewhere, waiting for the treasure hunter diligent or lucky enough to unearth it. In Iceland, only 177 miles from the Arctic Circle, there's a plantation that grows some unexpected crops. The winters here are freezing cold, and summer temperatures only get up to around 60 degrees. You wouldn't expect to find tropical fruit growing here, but this plantation is home to the largest banana crop in Northern Europe. Of course, there's not much competition, as bananas like warm and humid climates. The Iceland plantation is made possible because of the area's many volcanic hot springs, which provide a natural boost to the temperature and enable the greenhouse to stay at a balmy 70 degrees year-round. The growing season might be a bit shorter. Bananas are only harvested between April and June, but the 100 or so banana plants produce good crops and live alongside crops of cocoa, avocado, and coffee. Pufferfish are a rare and sometimes deadly delicacy. Unless they are prepared just right, the nerve toxin that the fish use for self-defense will easily kill a human being. However, in very small doses, this toxin is known to have a narcotic effect, which the dolphin kingdom apparently has figured out. In a scene filmed for a BBC documentary, a group of young dolphins is seen passing around and carefully chewing on a pufferfish before entering a trance-like state, the result of intoxication from the toxin. The dolphins would linger near the surface of the water as if fascinated by their own reflections. A producer for the series removed all doubt as to what was going on here, saying this was a case of young dolphins purposely experimenting with something that we know to be intoxicating. The crew was unable to determine if the pufferfish was brought from an older dolphin, or perhaps stolen from a brother's pufferfish stash. In 2014, a hijacking drama played out on an Ethiopian Airlines flight from Addis Ababa to Rome. When the plane's co-pilot commandeered it, Italian and French fighter jets were scrambled, and the hijacker announced his intention to land in Switzerland, where he intended to seek asylum. And that's when the Swiss Air Force did absolutely nothing. The hijacker had either the knowledge or good fortune to commit his crime outside of office hours, when the Swiss Air Force is simply closed. It may seem like a bad joke, but Swiss air bases are indeed open and able to respond to threats only from 8 a.m. until noon, and 1:30 to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. They're closed at all other times for budget and staffing reasons. Switzerland relies heavily on neighbors to help police its airspace during off hours, and although they're looking into upgrading their air force, no action looks to be likely before 2020. In Roman Catholicism, a patron saint is the sort of heavenly advocate for those who engage in various trades and activities. They're appointed by the Pope, and the list of patron saints is long and strange. In addition to the expected ancient trades such as healers and stoneworkers, patron saints have been assigned to such odd occupations as flight attendants, surfers, chimney sweeps, and arms dealers. In 1997, Pope John Paul II decided that users of the internet needed a patron saint to help guide them in its proper use. He appointed Saint Isidore of Seville, a scholar who has been dead for 1400 years. The choice is actually somewhat appropriate, as Isidore was the author of a 20-volume work cataloging much of the information known to the world in his time. Catholic web browsers would do well to honor him with a short prayer before jumping online, or perhaps just use a picture of him as your desktop. Americans love Christmas, but many don't know that it has its roots in ancient pagan celebrations, from which many elements were incorporated into the Christian tradition. For this reason, celebrating it was illegal in the United States for nearly 200 years. The state of Alabama was the first to legalize Christmas celebrations in 1836, and it wasn't made a federal holiday until 1870. The thought of Christmas being illegal seems crazy today, although the amount of money Americans spend on it every year is downright criminal. Last year, it was estimated to be close to $1 trillion. If you've ever played a video game in the modern era, you've seen a health pack. If you stumble across a white package with a red cross on it in any game that involves people shooting at you, you know it's your key to restoring lost health. But you probably didn't know it's also inviting a lawsuit for the game's developers. That's because it's actually the trademarked symbol for the International Committee of the Red Cross, the renowned human rights organization, and using it for another purpose technically violates the Geneva Conventions Act of 1957. The organization's position is that any use of the symbol without permission diminishes its significance, and game programmers have moved away from using it in recent years for just this reason. The manual transmission, or stick shift, was once commonplace. As recently as 30 years ago, 25% of the cars on the road featured manual transmissions. But today, only 5% of new vehicles come with a stick shift, and they generally sell for about $2,000 less than cars with automatic transmissions. This is one reason why only 18% of Americans, fewer than 1 in 5, know how to drive a stick shift today. So if you live in a high theft area, you could save some money by foregoing the expensive anti-theft system and just buying a car with a stick. Chances are any would-be thieves won't know how to drive it. There are plenty of reasons why some couples choose to wait for a long period of time to get married after becoming engaged. From financial to family considerations, not every instance of getting hitched goes off without a hitch. But according to the Guinness Book of World Records, one couple set a record for their lengthy engagement that is unlikely to ever be broken. Octavio Guillen and Adriana Martinez of Mexico City tied the knot in June 1969, after getting engaged as 15-year-olds in 1902. It took 67 years after pledging their mutual devotion to finally close the deal. By far the longest engagement on record. This is apparently the amount of time the couple needed to make sure they were right for each other. Not 66 years or 68, but exactly 67. 1 in about 10,000 chickens can spontaneously change sex from female to male. This is a type of thing that is a little more common in marine life, but practically unheard of among mammals and birds. It's because hens have an unused ovary that produces testosterone, and it can kick in and become functional under various conditions. While they don't develop primary sex organs, they quit laying eggs, develop all the other physical characteristics of a rooster, and begin crowing at dawn. There was a time in Canadian history when playing cards were briefly used as cash. In the late 1600s, the region known as New France was dependent upon Old France for shipments of cash to pay its civil servants and soldiers. If the ships were late or didn't arrive, chaos could ensue. One government official got around this problem by printing various denominations on playing cards and attaching the official government seal to them. The system continued in some form or another until the mid-1800s, with up to 2 million livres, the standard unit of currency, in circulation when it was at its peak. Indiana University researchers received an enormous grant to engage in an area of study that many of us participate in on a daily basis. The $920,000 grant bestowed by the National Science Foundation was spent on the study of memes. It may seem strange to pay a bunch of scientists close to $1 million to analyze Twitter feeds, but memes have gotten a foothold in social discourse that few could have predicted. The study aims to track how memes gain popularity and fade out, and also to develop algorithms that can detect political smears, astroturfing, misinformation, and other social pollution. Prince had a legendary talent, was notoriously eccentric, and was one of the biggest control freaks in music when it came to the rights to his songs. He maintained a tight control over their use, and famously claimed to have thousands of unreleased songs locked in a vault somewhere that were unlikely to ever see the light of day. All that changed at the moment of his untimely death in 2016. Prince neglected to create a will, and therefore failed to let his wishes known regarding the rights to his catalog. His estate, represented by a music industry veteran and an entertainment lawyer, is currently busy trying to milk these rights, with an estimated value of over $200 million for all they're worth, pursuing streaming and merchandising deals which almost certainly would have horrified Prince himself. The estate insists that they're trying to keep his wishes under consideration and are only following their legal obligation. The Pentagon oversees one of the largest budgets of any government agency, and the president has recently called for an increase of over $50 billion. This budget has doubled in the last 20 years, yet Americans have never heard the results of this massive agency's latest audit. That's because despite being legally required, no audit of the Pentagon has ever been performed. Constant promises to Congress to do so have gone unfulfilled, but Congress has taken no action to force the issue aside from a few strong words. This means that since 1996, an astonishing $10 trillion in taxpayer money has gone unaccounted for. The assassination of John F. Kennedy is one of the most traumatic events in U.S. history and has spawned the single most resilient conspiracy theory of all time. Rumors of collusion between the CIA, the Mafia, pro- and anti-Castro organizations, or some combination thereof have persisted for decades, and the controversy hasn't died down in recent years. This may finally change in 2017, largely as a result of the 1991 Oliver Stone film JFK. A law was passed in 1992 giving the government 25 years to release all of its files related to the assassination to the public. That 25 years will be up on October 26, 2017, and conspiracy theorists across the globe might finally get the answers they've been waiting for.